Welcome here to the International Art Doll Registry podcast. And Bambi and I are going to be talking about Italy. And it's not that hard to be able to want to travel over there and discover the beauty of it. So, Bambi, I'm going to let you start off our conversation.
Hey everybody. Yes, I went to Italy in May and I had a fabulous time. And it was actually the second time I'd actually been there, but I'd only been to Venice for one overnight stay. So I was coming back from skiing in Austria and I was like, hey, let's just swing by. So it was great. There was not any people there. It was in February. So this was a completely different experience going to Italy as more of a tourist during a tourist season. So the area that I went to was in Tuscany, which surprisingly, that I didn't realize that's where I was. I thought Tuscany, based on the movie, that so many people have seen, was further south, down south of Rome and stuff. But no, it's up kind of more in the northern part of Italy. So I was there, and it's a very young kind of city. Of course, they are really well known for all of their food. So, of course, going to Italy in itself is just a food vacation. If you don't do anything else but eat your way through the country, it's wonderful for that. Everywhere I went, I found most people, there was someone who could speak English. Like, as I said, it was a young crowd of people for the most part. So there was a lot of English speakers. I very seldom encountered a place or an experience where there was nobody that I could talk to. I couldn't make myself understood. So that's usually the first scary part about any kind of overseas travel is being able to communicate. What was really great about where I was located there in the northern part of Italy was we did go to Venice for just a day. It was a day trip that we went on. We didn't spend the night there, so we just drove up. Driving around there is so easy, but we just drove up for the day. We parked and then took a water taxi into town.
Well, that was my question now was that did you drive yourself or did you get taxied when you said you drove?
So we had a rental car, which is kind of typical for us. My husband, he is, quite the adventurer, and we did live overseas for a long time. I've mentioned that before. And so he's perfectly comfortable driving just about anywhere. And we like to have the freedom of having our own car.
Mhm.
So, but when we drove to Venice, we just took a water taxi down to the main square and just walked around, did a little shopping. The first time we went there were no gondolas running. It was off season and the gondolas were all covered up and closed. So this time we did do that. And that was a really good thing to do at a time when it's really crowded because you completely miss all the crowds in the streets. I mean, there are some streets that's really bottlenecked because the streets in Venice are so tight. But taking a gondola ride made it really nice to see things. You had some quiet moments where there weren't really many people around at all. You could just kind of sit there and enjoy the sights, and the gondola guy would tell you about different things and
And now
stuff.
you did mention that this was in May. So did you find that the weather was pretty good over there at that time frame?
Yes, it was beautiful. April and May, I think, are some of the best times to go. Talking
Yeah.
about the train system is extremely easy to use. It's in all the languages that you can imagine, so it's easy to read, it's easy to follow. It's very user friendly. I talked to so many people at some of the different things that we went to. We had gone there for a Formula One race, and I talked to many people at the Formula One race who had taken a train from wherever they were staying, which kind of the closest big city was Bologna. That's where we were staying, was in Bologna. So, and they all said how easy it was. Certainly it's more crowded at certain times, but the train system anywhere you go in Europe, I found when I lived over there, it was phenomenal. It's you get on, if you're running late and you have to jump on, your train is about to leave, you run and jump on. It's no big deal. You just buy your ticket from the guy when he comes by your seat, you know.
Mhm.
So it's very laid back and you get to see a lot of the countryside. and a very inexpensive way to travel, very quick way to travel. A lot of times it's quicker to take the train than it is to drive. They come along very regularly, and they're almost always, every single country I took a train in was always very good about being on time. Those all make for easy travel over there.
Well, you also said that you were going to try and explore some of the art when you were there. Did you get a chance to do any of that?
While we were staying over there, one of the hotel that we were in had a lot of sculptures. So there's a lot of sculptures everywhere you went. I saw more sculptures than I did paintings, which is really surprising. Now, I was only about an hour away from Florence, and had I gone to Florence, I would have, that is probably the art capital of Italy. Even just driving through the city on our way to Pisa, we only had 2 days to really see a lot of things. So we went to Venice for one day and we went to Pisa for another day because there's no way you can see everything in Florence in one day. Everywhere you went, it was like part of their culture. The sculptures were beautiful, whether they were subtractive sculptures like the Statue of David and marble, all of those kind of sculptures, or additive sculptures like what we do, where you start with one thing and usually kind of add on
The
um,
clay.
the clay and stuff like that. So it was very interesting to see all of that. And you can see it anywhere. We went to the Ferrari Museum, and there they had statues of Julius Caesar and Octavian, and there's these beautiful marble statues just everywhere you looked. And even people like there was even a marble bust of Enzo Ferrari in the museum there. So it's clear that art is definitely a part of their mindset, whether it's any kind of art, and they're so stylish there. Their wardrobes are like art. With having a sculpting conference there, there will be so many little side trips you'd be able to take, excursions, kind of inspire you for whatever it is that you do, or you can learn something or some new technique. Wonderful would it be for you to go and see some porcelain makers in Italy, that kind of thing, and see what techniques they use and what kind of porcelain and where they get it from, all those kind of things.
Well, I think even just looking at the statues themselves, you
Cool.
start to analyze it. How did they do that? What does it look like? So I mean, even that,
Yeah.
just walking the streets, you're going to pick up some kind of that exposure, I guess.
You do. And as artists, we look at art so differently. If you're not an artist, you admire art. If you've had any kind of art appreciation, you know kind of some things to look for. But if you are an artist, it changes your whole perspective. You can imagine how the artists began, where they got their inspiration from, and if they drew a picture of it first, or if they just started with a ball of clay and kind of made it up as they went along. And you can see the different techniques in their strokes and how they add things like ears and arms, and how they sculpt. The hardest thing for me to sculpt is the mouth. I have the most difficult with that, and I love just looking at those and thinking about how they would sculpt, how that artist sculpted that mouth. Like, and I can look at it from all different angles. When you're looking at pictures, you can have a picture from this angle and then a different picture from another angle, but able to see the same thing from all those different angles is the best education that there
Oh,
is.
absolutely. As you said earlier, when you talk about sculpting in marble, I can't imagine making a wrong chip and then losing the
I
whole piece.
I I cannot for my life understand how that works. I never could understand how you could take a rock and just chip away little pieces of it and get it so smooth. You learn a lot about those things when you talk to the curators who are kind of responsible for that art, because they know what the artist did to get that marble so smooth. I would just imagine there'd be little fleck marks every took from every time you chip it. Oh my gosh, it's like glass. It's so smooth.
This is it. That's an experience itself, just to see that history in that art. Yeah, we're really excited to see if we can get our bell conference going off in Florence. I think it's going to be a wonderful experience.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And you're right. Florence is the kind of place where you have to spend a few days. There's so much to see, whether it's just from all the artwork by Michelangelo to all the literary stuff from Shakespeare. I mean, Romeo and Juliet, that's their home. From that, he was there, I think, when he wrote that or inspired by that city or something. Just so much everywhere you go. So yeah, it takes a few days for that. But the really nice thing is you can hop on a train and be in Pisa in an hour from Florence. And the other great thing about taking a train is usually a very short walk to the tourist attractions, and you don't have to worry about parking.
So when you were talking about before about the food and flavor, what was one of your favorite things to try over there for eating?
Oh my gosh. First of all, one caveat. They have wonderful, wonderful bread. Of course, any restaurant you go to, you sit down, they're going to bring you out a basket of bread. But do not expect them to bring you any butter. They're going to bring you a jar of olive oil, not with any seasoning like you get at the Olive Garden, just olive oil. And they all have their own, every little city, they all have their own olive oil. It's very unique to each area. Even, like those little pads of butter where it's in a little
Mhm.
plastic thing and you peel the top off. They
Right.
even give you those, but with olive oil in them.
Oh,
I had never
okay.
seen that before. When early on in our trip, we sat down to eat, they brought out bread and I asked for butter. So the guy brings a plate with one little foil wrapped pad of butter for my husband and me. I was like, oh my gosh. Some restaurants, you ask for butter and they're like, no, we don't have any butter. And they're cooking with it. They gotta, or maybe they don't cook with it at all. I don't know. But
Well, again, I know dairy is different because they don't have the room to raise cattle and stuff, so you're more goats and that type of thing.
and with your olive oil, I don't know if you have to ask for seasoning to go in, and I'm not sure. First time the server looked down her nose at me and shook her head, no, we don't have any butter. I didn't ask for anything else. I just ate my olive oil with my bread. Another thing they do in the northern part of Italy is about 8 o'clock, they have something called aperitivo. And what this is, go downtown and there's all these people here and they're all hanging out. All these little alleyways are just jammed full of people. There are bars set up along the outside and tables where you can eat or stand. And they'll bring you a huge tray of different kind of cold cuts. They call them cold cuts over there. And it's definitely prosciutto, but like there'll be like five different kinds of prosciutto on there. And it is the best thing you have ever eaten
Okay, so
before.
what is per
Prosciutto is just a very slim, it's kind of like Parma ham. Are you familiar with Parma ham?
no?
Are you familiar with smoked salmon?
Yes.
Okay, so think of some pork that's dried and thinly sliced as kind of in the same vein as a smoked salmon. Okay, so kind of like that. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, it is so good. Every different flavors, different texture, whether it's moister or drier, depending on, how the process through which it's made. But there'll be all different kinds of that, as well as ham and other kinds of deli, what we know as deli meats. And then usually on the bottom part, there will be several different kinds of cheeses. And of course, there's a basket of bread with olive oil. So you go out, you drink, you eat, you socialize with all the people on the street. It's just such a fun time. And you do that for, a little while. And then, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock, then you go out to dinner.
Oh, I don't know if
And
I could eat that late.
I can't even stay awake that late. Honestly, for me, the aperitivo was dinner. There's bowls of different kinds of olives. So it's kind of like a charcuterie board, but really focused on the different types of deli meat and the cheeses. Just delicious. And of course, any pasta you get is going to be freshly made, probably
Mhm.
within the last few hours. So no matter what you get that's pasta related is going to be so good.
Did you find that the prices were really that much different than what we have in the US?
No, no, no. You can find anything from dirt cheap restaurants to five-star Michelin restaurants.
It really wasn't that much more expensive for you to go over there and find what you wanted to find for a meal and your rooms.
I've been to many countries in Europe. Just recently in the fall, we went to Scotland, so I really had to kind of compare. And I can honestly say Italy is one of my favorite places that I've ever been. The atmosphere and the culture there is very welcoming. The people are so nice. They're so friendly, so fun to experience, different things. That's what it makes you appreciate what you have a lot more, a lot.
Totally agree. Even doing with the conference, it gives us a chance for, again, like-minded people, or if you want to say artists, to come together to be able to share our passion too, which is doll making.
Yeah,
Rare in itself. That's another reason why I wanted to do the conference is just the chance of go see art, but you didn't really get to interact with the artist. Where we go with the conference, you can
right.
actually see the artist right there and talk to her and
That's right. There are so many people, so many wonderful artists in our organization here. We're all in the same groups. We communicate through Zoom. We talk to each other through Facebook Messenger and that sort of thing. But there are some of them, and I look at the dolls they make, and I'm fascinated. And there's nothing that would be more beneficial to me than to be able to sit down with that person, maybe a ball of clay in my hand, and ask questions. How did you do this? Or, anything like that. Look at the art that they have with them and talk about how they did it. There is no substitute for the things that you can learn from doing that.
especially when you can do it in real time, be able to
Exactly.
physically, as you said, be able to walk around your piece in many
Yes.
different lights and angles.
Yes.
So, with that, I want to encourage everybody to consider putting the Italian conference on your calendar. We will be doing it in May. We're still make some fine details on it, but more on that will be coming out. Listen to Bambi. It wasn't hard going to Italy.
Oh, no, no, no. You can fly right into Florence. You don't have to go 50 million legs to get to your journey anymore. There are so many, Charlotte's a good jumping point, New York, Maryland from the East Coast of the United States. So if you're in the United States, it's really just a straight shot over there. You don't even have to go anywhere else a lot of times.
And that's what we're hoping with the conference, make it easy once you land to even get to the motel. So,
Yeah.
with that note, then, we will talk with you then next time, Bambi.
Okay. It was great to talk to everybody.